I'm Dr. Sadaf Zamir Ahmed, Assistant Professor Education. Today we will be discussing about different approaches and methods used in teaching. A Chinese proverb, 1,000 teachers, 1,000 methods, means each teacher will use his or her own method. Every teacher have their own methods of teaching. We will be discussing what is a teaching. Teaching is a systematic way of doing something. It implies an orderly, logical arrangement of steps. Basically, there are steps or procedures which a teacher adopts while he or she is teaching. Basically, these are the logical arrangement. Logicals mean there is some logic and they are in a sequence. They are step by step. So from easy to difficult, and the teacher moves from unknown to known. The teaching technique. The technique, what is technique? It is well-defined procedure used to accomplish a specific activity or task. The technique is a procedure which is used to when a specific task or needs to be accomplished. Now, we need to know what are the difference between the approaches which we are going to study about the teaching approaches, teaching methods, and teaching techniques. When we talk about the techniques, they are more specific. When we talk about the methods, they are broader than the techniques. And when we talk about the approaches, they are more broader than the methods and techniques. The approaches, there are two approaches like teacher-centered and learner-centered, subject-centered and learner-centered. And in the teacher-centered, the teacher is more dominant, whereas in the learner-centered, the learner is more interactive with their peers, and there is more constructivist. We will be discussing these in more detail further. And disciplinary, and when we talk about the learner center, they are integrated. And the teacher center, there is an individualistic approach. And in learner center, there is collaborative approach. And when we talk about the teacher center, it's the indirect guided, whereas in learner centered, it is direct guided. So we will be discussing these in more details. The teacher-centered, where the main focus and the main information is the source of information is the teachers. And the teacher impart the knowledge to the students. The learner-centered approach, the main focus is on the learner. The learner is the important resource. He or she is capable of doing and knowing things and sharing things. So the more liberty to the learner is given in the learner-centered approach. When we talk about the subject-centered approach, the more focus is on the subject. Means like the subject or the content need to be covered. The main focus is on the content. The teacher dominant approach. This is the teacher centered approach in which the teacher is more dominant, in which the major role is played by the teacher, and the teacher is the role model. Whatever the information is imparted, that is imparted by the teacher, and the active role is of the teacher and the passive role is of the students. The teacher is the sole dispenser of the information. When we talk about interactive approach, as the word interactive is interaction between the classroom, the students in the classroom, where the more students talk and the less teacher talk. The students are given the opportunity to interact with the teacher and with their peers and the students. So they interact and they learn according to their own pace and their interest and their needs. Constructivist approach means construction of the new knowledge based on their prior experience. The students construct the new knowledge based on their prior experience. Integrated approach. This is teacher connects what he or she teaches to other lessons of the same subjects, interdisciplinary, or connects his or her lesson with other subjects, thus making his or her approach interdisciplinary. When they are the same subjects, they are the intradisciplinary. When there are the other subjects, then it is interdisciplinary and multidisciplinary approach. Disciplinal approach, as the word disciplinal means that there are some boundaries within the lesson. There are boundaries with the, so keeping in view those boundaries, the teacher has to focus on the subject matter. Collaborative approach, collaboration, partnershiping, teamwork, group discussions. Each and individual work group in the group, and they collaborate and they interact with each other as to get the solution of the problem or to accomplish a specific task. Individualistic approach, in which the main focus is on the individual. The individual students are given more attention. They may be special children, they may be the low performing students, they may be very shy students, they may be attention seeker students who could not focus on their studies or could not achieve their goals, or who could not achieve their grades. Then this individualistic approach is used. Direct teaching approach, direct indicates that the teacher is involved. The teacher teaches her content, and he or she demonstrate what to be taught. It's the teacher centered approach. Indirect guided approach, as the indirect indicates that it is focused on the learner. The learner discovers things by him or herself. The teacher facilitates the learning process by allowing the learner to be engaged in a learning process with his or her guidance. Means there is the guidance of the teacher, but students are the learners, or they are given the liberty to learn according to their own needs, own interest, according to their own level, and according to their own pace. There are other approaches used in teaching, that is research based approach. That is based on the research findings, we draw a conclusion, we come to the solution of the problem. And when we talk about the whole child approach, the teacher, why the teacher uses whole child approach? When he or she needs to know that where the problem lies. It's not only the academic needs of the students, but it is more focused on the emotional, creative, psychological, spiritual, and development needs of the learner. Like there are some students in the class, there in majority of the students, there are some students in the class, they may be artists, they may be painter, they may be a singer, they may be actors. So the teacher explore the inner abilities of the students, that what abilities they have, and then after exploring those abilities and characteristics and of the students, the teacher uses the teaching method accordingly, and then that integrate with the teaching and learning process. Metacognitive, cognitive thinking abilities, the process of thinking about thinking. This teaching process, the metacognitive approach, reflects on what the learners, what he or she have learned, and what are the ways of the learner. The teacher gets the complete picture of the students, the learners, that how they learn, how they can learn and gain more knowledge. The problem-based approach, as the title indicates, that the problem, the main focus is the solution of the problem, that the teacher spend more time in analyzing and solving the problem, the reasons, what are the reasons behind the problem. So in the summary, we will conclude that approaches vary in the degree of teacher and learner engagement, that how much teachers are engaged and how much learners are engaged. Like when we talk about the teacher centered approach, the teacher engagement is more, and when we talk about the learner centered approach, the learner engagement is more. And when we talk about the focus, or what is the focus area, that is on the subject matter or that is on the learner. And when we talk about the number of the students, like the individualistic approach or the collaborative learning, then we use the individual or group. This was all for today. Next we will be moving towards our next lecture.